I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 6 p.m. on the dot, and this is a special meeting of the Kaneland Board of Education. We would like to inform all board meeting attendees that this meeting is being live streamed and archived for access at any time by our community members on the internet within 24 to 48 hours of the meeting's conclusion. Mr. McCauley, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and a roll call, please.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Here.
Mr. Mankiewski.
Here.
Mr. Kleisner.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Dr. Lawler.
Here.
Mr. McCauley.
Here.
Mrs. Simmons. Here.
All right, with 7 members present, we have a quorum. Is there anything the board would like to move from consent to new business? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons. Aye. Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Mankiewski.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 7-0. The agenda is approved. It's now time for the board/superintendent salute, so I'll turn it over to Dr. Layden.
Yes, I'd like to start with, as I shared at the last meeting, we have our middle school, high school principal and athletic directors typically would come and share a highlight on the fall sports. So with that, I know that Mrs. Patterman is here and Mr. Faulkner, so I'm not sure who I'm turning it over to. Patty, thank you, Patty.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. On behalf of the Kaneland Middle School Athletics, I want to welcome Dr. Rolwing to Kaneland and thank Dr. Layden and the Board of Education for recognizing the hard work and achievement of our student athletes. Your support highlights the pride we all share in representing Kaneland. Our programs wouldn't be possible without the backing of the district, which creates these athletic opportunities for our students. I also want to express my gratitude to the many individuals who make our athletic programs successful, starting with our coaches, and we have 2 of those here tonight. They put in a lot of hours and share their passions with their athletes. Also the parents. With the pickup times, it's not always easy, and they show up all the time. Event workers, the maintenance staff, custodial staff, and the transportation team, we couldn't do it without the support of all of those departments. Your dedication and effort ensure that our athletes have the best possible experience both during and beyond their competition. Thank you for being a part of the Kaneland athletic community. We had 99 athletes take part in fall sports this year, including volleyball, cross country, and golf. And we have our cross country coach to share the success of our cross country and our golf coach to talk about the golf team. Thank you. Coach Rebsim.
Hi, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Rachel Rebsum. I coach the middle school cross country team. I think my official title says that I'm the boys cross country coach, but we do it all together, so we are one team. I've been fortunate to coach Macy on the cross country team for 3 years. In all of my dealings with Macy, she has shown to be a young woman of character, intelligence, and talent. Macy displays the leadership and work ethic that every coach hopes for from their athletes. She came to practice ready to work, and she trusted my process. She's hardworking, she's respectful, and she leads by example and during practice and also during the off season. As a 6th grader, Macy was a member of our conference team and our sectional team. As a 7th and an 8th grader, she was a member of both of those, but was also a state qualifier. Macy, from her 6th grade year to her 8th grade year, improved over 5 minutes on a 2-mile course, which is pretty significant. And finished her middle school career as a 2-time All-State runner. So Macy was finished 12th place this year, and I'm really sad to see her go, but I'm also excited to watch her grow as an athlete and as a student in the high school.
can stand next to me. Moral support. Okay. Hi, I'm Kendall Lawson. I teach 7th grade ELA, and I'm lucky to coach golf here at Harder. I'm proud to introduce you to Joe DiGuglielmo, an 8th grader here at Harder. I did not know Joe as a 7th grader or have him in my English class. I did not know Joe as a golfer until the first day of school when Joe sent me an email saying, "Hi, I'm Joe, and I'd like to be on the golf team." At lunch that day, I asked some other 8th graders who he was. I then introduced myself, asked him a little bit about his golf game. Truthfully, not expecting him to have played much golf, as most of our golfers are pretty new to the game at this point. Joe shared his average scores, his handicap, and probably still remembers the look on my face. I was impressed nonetheless. We host a tryout to determine the sectional team, as we can only take 6 boys and 6 girls to the sectional tournament. This tryout was the first time that I saw Joe play golf, and I think he would agree that this quick round at Hughes Creek was not his favorite round of golf, but he persevered and put his best foot forward and found himself on the sectional team for a good reason. At sectionals, he finished with an impressive 77 on the day for 18 holes, a 42 and a 35, which if you don't play golf, it's a very impressive round. His individual score earned him a 5th place finish in a well-earned spot at the state tournament in Peoria. Additionally, his score alongside his teammates allowed us to finish 6th as a team at sectionals. The following week, Joe competed at the state meet in Peoria, where he finished 35th among 6th, 7th, and 8th grade peers across Illinois. Joe is a golfer. If you play golf, you'll be able to resonate with this. Skills beyond his years, high golf IQ, and most importantly, he carries himself as a respectable young golfer does. He is humble, he seeks feedback, he sets goals, he has an impressive practice routine, and is a good partner, all of which he's probably learned through his family, his dad, his grandpa, throughout the years. The Joe I have grown to know in the halls of Harder is full of joy, a cheerful smile, the one that brightens my days. And while I would love some of that energy to trickle into his golf game, the golfer in me knows that golf is business. And the Joe the golfer is successful in what he does. We are so proud of you, Joe, and I personally am grateful to have walked alongside you for a couple of rounds, and I will forever be cheering you on from the fairway, or the tee box, or checking the app of wherever you're playing. Golf is such a game of ups and downs, and I hope that you remember that as you go through high school and beyond. Lastly, thank you for allowing me to be a golf coach at Harder. Even though it's a volunteer position, I appreciate the opportunity to be around young golfers and on a golf course, supporting Kaneland athletics anytime that I can. So go Knights. Thank you.
Mr. Chavez, did you get a picture of Macy? Because I know you got a picture up here. Can just make sure. Okay, can we, I want to make sure we get a picture of, come on, Macy, sorry. Sorry, we got to get your picture.
Yeah, you gotta do it. Didn't happen with some picture. She thought she was free.
Shoot, I thought I missed it.
Hear it again, that's right. That's right. Thank you. Great, thank you. And thanks again for Harder, our coaches, all of our parents, pick up, drop off, all of the late nights and meals on the run as you go to and from events. So thank you very much to our Harder staff and our Harder parents taking students to and from. We appreciate your athletics, your activities, and all your work that you do. So thank you very much, and congrats on a fall season.
Dr. Rowling.
I have none this week.
Dr. Bogan?
Yes, if you want to come to the podium.
Me too.
Yeah, good pictures.
Okay, y'all, I'm sure you know who I am, Adam Gonzalez, obviously. I just found out shortly that I would be doing this, so I don't have something prepared, and I'm not an eloquent speaker, so forgive me. But as you may or may not know, tonight is Dr. Layden's last meeting after serving our district for almost a decade. And I'm an emotional dude, so if I tear up, I probably won't, but should be fine. I cannot say enough about this man in terms of being a leader, being engaged, doing everything, putting his all into this community. And this era that's coming to an end for Kaneland is a big event. And so I just want you guys to understand and acknowledge, you know, what he's been through, what he's done for this district, bringing us through the big C word that was tough for those many years, putting everything, putting his all forward. I just can't say enough. It was amazing to have him, and I'm truly appreciative of everything he's done for our community and for our district. So I'd like to present the clock, the retirement clock, the standard retirement clock.
Very interesting
To
to be
Dr.
on this
Layden.
side of it. Yeah, it's interesting.
And say thank you, you know, on behalf of the board, on behalf of everybody. We truly value and appreciate everything you've given to us in the district, so.
Thank you. I
you.
appreciate that. Thank you. Just a few notes that I want to share. 10 years ago, in 8 days, to the exact day, I stood right here. The Board of Education approved my superintendency, and I started. So it was exactly 10 years and 8 days that I was here, and been here for several nights, several meetings, and it's been a great experience. And one of the things that I share when I usually say, Todd Layden, Superintendent, Kaneland School District, I'm proud to be a Knight, that wasn't anything that I created because it was cool. But when I was interviewing for the job and I was trying to find out about Kaneland, who Kaneland was, who Kaneland is, everybody that I talked to talked about their pride in Kaneland. The pride that they had as a Kaneland Knight, the pride as a former student, the pride as a staff member, community member. So it just became very natural just to say, I'm Todd Layden, I'm proud to be a Knight, as I was proud to be a Knight with everybody else. I'm really bummed that last Wednesday and Thursday I was out sick, because the retirement reception that we would have had to celebrate, and I don't know, Julie and I are trying to work on another date in which to do so. I'm not sure if we'll be able to find one or not, but the part I was bummed was that was my chance to say thank you. Thank you to Kaneland, thank you to the community. Because of 10 years of being here, I've met thousands of people, numbers of staff members and students, board members, administrators, and I wanted to say thanks to you. I'm a small part in the bigger picture. It was an honor in which to do so. And the other thing that I would share too is, as I talk about Kaneland, one of the things I share regularly is that we're in a people business. We do lots of stuff. We have lots of meetings and agendas and things that you'll hear about, but really we are in a people business. So I've really tried to appreciate people and celebrate people. And as I have done that, I've learned to really appreciate two separate families. So I have two families. I want to introduce you to one of my families. The other one? Yep. So this is my other family, the one that you don't get to work with and see very often. And I'm not the boss there, but I'm the boss here for a couple more days. This is my oldest son, Andrew, works in Florida. This is my son, Evan. He is would be a freshman in college, but he's doing some other things with hockey related. My wife, Jennifer, and my daughter, Lexi. And as a matter of fact, if you hang around after the meeting for a couple minutes, you might meet her, because my car is with her, because she's home for Christmas break. So I got a ride. I feel like a little kid. I got a ride to and from school today. So she'll be picking me up when the meeting ends. And then my second family, bigger family, this is my Kaneland family. And I'm going to go through and introduce each person here. So get comfortable. But what's cool about this is, this was opening day this year. And so this is truly my Kaneland family. And when I said, I want to take a picture of you, I said, smile. Everybody smiled. They took it seriously. It's just a wonderful Kaneland family. They smiled, and I want to say thanks to all of them, since I didn't get to see them last Wednesday at the reception. Thank you to the Kaneland community. It's been fun, and it's a great family. Take care of yourselves and enjoy the family, okay? Thank you. Thanks, guys. All right, I make a motion, we adjourn. My last official action.
After dinner, let's
That's
go.
right. That's right. Thank you. Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all. Okay, tonight's consent agenda contains the following information. The following action items: approval of minutes of the December 9th, 2024 regular meeting, approval of personnel, approval of policies from press, issue number 116 and number 117, second reading informational items, and the following informational items: the field trip notification and the Freedom of Information FOIA report. At this time, I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent items listed.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. Mullen.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 7-0. The consent agenda is approved. We'll now move forward to public comments, and we have one person signed up. So, we use the public comment section as an opportunity to listen to our stakeholders. The board does not debate or engage in conversation during this time. I'd like to remind everyone to state your name and village of residence for the record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Public comment is a maximum of 30 minutes with a 20-minute total length of time for any one subject. Those who speak are asked to maintain a tone of courtesy and civility. So I want to mention we have one person signed up now. There will be a second opportunity for public comment at the end of the meeting. Please sign up if you want to comment at that time. I won't be calling any additional after that. So please sign up for the second one if you want to speak. So now we'll have Jennifer Crocker.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Crocker. I'm a resident of Sugar Grove and a parent of 2 students. My high schooler, Alex, wanted to be here with me tonight, but it's finals week, so she's at home studying. I came here a year ago to talk about the abrupt cancellation of 9th grade at Kipla. At last week's board meeting, the enrollment numbers for next year were presented and no questions were asked. I, however, have many. How many parents attended the parent meetings? How many replied to the emails? I received the survey email for my 6th grader, which came from a system email address that didn't specify my student's name, and no one followed up to see if I even read it. Last year, there were 8 7th graders, and this year there are 4 8th graders. Did the other 4 go back to Harder because of the Board of Education decision? What are you doing to prevent the 32 registered for 8th grade next year from switching to Harder now that they're in the same position again? Only 3 signed up for 10th grade. Did anyone follow up with the kids from last year as to why they didn't register? The answer to that is no. All of you said how much you cared about our 11 students, which you let down last year, and promised to support them this year. Our students have received no support that is different than what is available to every other Kaneland High School student. No one's bothered to check in to see how the high school Kipla kids are doing. I'm taking it upon myself to provide that missing information today. I'm here to tell you from experience that the transition from Kipla to high school was very difficult for our students. For my student, it took until probably early November to really get settled back into the traditional learning environment, but it continues to be a daily struggle. Watching my student go from absolutely thriving to struggling has been heartbreaking. I give a lot of credit for Alex's progress this year to Mr. Markovich and Ms. Cox in Student Services, who are truly amazing at their jobs, as well as for Alex for an unwavering determination to never give up. It's incredibly frustrating to see that after years of planning leading up to Kipla's opening and being a year and a half in, that there still seems to be no concrete plan for high school. High school students are solely focused on graduation and getting there. They can't afford to take risks on ifs and maybes. If you're going to expand, it needs to start with 8th grade Kipla class, and the 25-26 class of 32 students should be it. But it won't be if you waste this opportunity again. Stop doing to these kids what you already did to ours. Are you in or out? Make a decision. If you're going to stick to 3rd to 8th grade, then just say so. If the teachers and students, give the teachers and students time to plan for the transition and the parents time to make an informed decision. I've given up completely on the idea of my student returning to Kipla, but I wholeheartedly believe in Kipla as an amazing school and a true asset to our community. Please don't squander it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, we're going to proceed into the first item of new business. First item of new business is the resolution providing for requiring the submission of a proposition of issuing not to exceed $140,274,000 in school building bonds to voters of the district at the consolidated election to be held on the 1st of April 2025. Dr. Rowling.
Yeah, so last week we presented quite a bit of information regarding this question. The $140 million is the recommendation of the administration based on our community feedback, understanding the needs of the district in terms of facility, and we believe that it would essentially not only make Kaneland High School a flagship school, but also future-proof us in terms of future growth and opportunities for career tech ed and a variety of other things. So in the packet, though, we did include the information on all three scopes. So I would leave it to the board to discuss, and we're here to answer any questions. We also have Mr. Critter from Wold if you have technical questions.
I have one initial question. So it was discussed at the last meeting, the restructuring of the debt so that the impact on the taxpayer was nil, at least today, but would further push out the debt based on what we decided. Is that just assumed in this?
Yes, so that is not part of the ballot question. That's part of what we share with our voters, but it's not a part of the official ballot question.
Questions, comments?
I have pretty big concerns that 140 million, the third scope is too big and that the electorate will not bite for that. I think there's a much higher chance that this would not be tolerable, or not tolerable, but not appetizing to the economic climate in the district. And I think scope one, in my opinion, would be where I would go. Just because I think the infrastructure, those classrooms need to be done, and I think if we go out for 140 and don't get it, those classrooms are just going to keep getting worse, and we can't chance that. And I think the infrastructure, same thing as the classrooms. That's my position on this.
So I'll just give my opinion. The main reason I am supporting the 140 is because the at no cost, that it's not going to increase the price. And the problem is we have let the school go for so many years that if we do something smaller, and even if that doesn't get approved, scope A, scope B, the problem is the cost of materials continue to pushing down the road. I'm at to the point just like the track. We waited too long, and it was a sticker shock, and it cost us because of previous boards all the way down. And if we do this now, we do it right, and it will save us in the future. And just as you said too, as far as our operation costs or projects for next year, usually around $2 million, and we're at $500,000, with the hopes that this would, pick up costs. Now, would this save us money then if we were to use this, and it would put money to the side too in different areas?
So the idea of spending $500,000 in the summer of '25 on capital projects was because we didn't want to include any projects that would be in a potential successful referendum, right? Because we didn't want to double do that work, so we pulled that off. So that's why we have such a low amount going into capital projects. What this does, what 140 million does, is it addresses a vast majority of issues that we've identified not only at the high school but across the district. And so by addressing those, it helps us be more proactive in our planning for future capital needs. So it essentially frees up additional capital that we can look to do more of those ongoing maintenance projects in a much more reasonable timeline. Like when we look at our capital projects list, the last time we had looked at it was like $26.6 million. Spending $1 million a year, even $2 million a year, there's no way that we're ever going to catch up. By addressing these issues and getting that capital projects down to even $8 million, well, if we can spend, $2.5 million a year in that upkeep and that maintenance, we have a much more proactive approach than always sort of chasing. So that was, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
The play between the referendum and then also our capital projects list.
And again, it was just reiterated if it doesn't go through, like you said, we're basically crawling, we're behind. We're always gonna be behind.
We're always gonna be
And
behind.
the sticker price is gonna increase even more and more down the road.
Correct.
Okay.
And that 26 million that we would still need to spend is not everything that's in that 30 million, like that scope one. That
Correct.
is above and beyond, I mean, that's.
Correct.
So it's actually 50, you know, I don't know. if it's
Right, there's
exactly-
there's other
so
items
there's
on there.
30 that to upgrade our classrooms and stuff like that, but then there's also still 26 million of all these other things that need to be done at the other schools and stuff like that. I am also for the 140 million too. I appreciate the uniqueness, that's because talking about that $26 million, projects that need to be done, those are things that are fixed. One thing here, one thing there, one thing there. But the 140 million, we are actually, you guys have looked at it differently, where you're like, let's move transportation over there, so this is gonna free up this space. Let's move the West Gym and do this instead, because then we can further the CTE. We can expand that, we can, make that for our future, for our students and stuff like that. So it's not just a field house anymore, where that's what was last time. This time it's a field house, a part of the building, and it's part of our PE classes, and it's very much more directed towards how can we combine things and improve everything, not just this roof, this HVAC, and this stuff. So I do appreciate that's what I like about the 140 million, because it's more than just our classrooms. It's absolutely, like you, Dr. Rowling said, it's taken us to that next level.
So I think what was important for me, and I think a lot of us talked about this, was comparing this to the last time, right? We failed last time, so what did we learn from that failure, right? And I think we did make some pivots from that failure. One, I think we were a little bit more proactive and working with the community. So, props to you, Dr. Rowling, for leading that charge along with you, Dr. Vogan. That was very important. I think two, we had listened to the community who said, all you care about is the high school. In the last referendum, we need to see the elementary schools in there. We need to see everybody else in there as well. We made that adjustment. And I do think that we heard this over and over again. It wasn't always about the money. The money was a piece, but it wasn't always the money that was the no the last time. So I think folks want to see huge improvements. They don't want to just see Band-Aids. And so the problem with going with the lower ones is that's actually what we did the last time. I was the one that voted that way. I was like, I don't know if the community can stomach $100 million. They told us 70 million was their threshold. Maybe we shoot for 58 and they think it's a bargain now, right? And it backfired on us, right? That didn't work, right? And so I think that is another thing to think about. And lastly, I think it's a simpler conversation to say, tax bill is flat. Last time we had, well, it's gonna be here and then it's gonna move here, but then don't worry, it's gonna drop down here, and people are like, that's never gonna happen. And I understand that. I live in the state of Illinois too. I don't necessarily trust what people say, right? So I think a simpler message puts us in a better position. So I think if I had it tallied up, we're about 5 or 6 things better off this time around than we were the last time around.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think that, so the no voters are going to vote no if we ask for $5.
Sure.
Right? They're mad at the district for, their perceived past, transgressions, and they're mad at their tax bill for the current situation. So whether we ask for 5 or we ask for 140, I think either way those no voters are going to vote the same way. I think asking for the 140 gives those who are on the cusp saying, okay, well, here's where we're going to actually have something tangible, something big, something where we're going to have some value for our money, more value for our money. I'm also very wary of putting a Band-Aid. I think option 1 is a Band-Aid because, I understand the debt structure. I understand that we're gonna push this out to 2048. But at the same time, if we just Band-Aid it, at some point we're probably going to have to ask for money at some point, and that's going to raise your tax bill. That's going to impact your tax bill. This will set us up to have the structure we need to prolong, be on top of our costs and keep those long-term costs down through doing this. So for me, and traditionally I'm very much economically conservative, but I feel like this is the economically conservative option because of the way resets the district, puts us in a spot where we can spend this money to get the upgrades we need for the long term and minimize the long-term tax ramifications for homeowners, for property taxpayers.
I agree.
I think there's a gamble where we have to convince the electorate, the political reality, that you go in the voter box, vote for 140 million, and they know that their taxes won't go up. And
That is our job.
But that's the
now.
same thing with
it's
the
our
lowest
job.
option, right?
Oh, yes, I know.
It's whether it's
also
$5 or
a hard
140
dream.
million.
There's still a $100 million difference, but I think it's riskier in saying that, yeah, we're asking for 140 million and your taxes won't go up. We need to make sure that people believe that if we go this way. And I'm all for being on the yes team and everything like that, but I don't know if we could swing it that far.
I'll tell you, I agree with you 100% because that's, like I said, the way I voted the last time, right? When we went down this road, I was like, there's just no way they can stomach 140 or 100 million. Like, I can't stomach that, right? I'm on the board, right? Like, so I just thought, that's nuts. And then I just thought we have to do something. I do think we have to do something different this time. If we don't, like, it's dead in the water. Right.
And I do appreciate the work you've already done because you've set the foundation for us to know that message. Like you said, if we are down to this is the message, this is what we're 140 million, this is what your taxes are going to, so it is this, but you've already built that trust, which was one of the hurdles that we had heard last time. It's like, great, you're saying this, but we don't trust you, and you have given your blood, sweat, and tears of being out there at a lot of different meetings and having a lot of conversations and hearing the voices. And so, I hope that is what our community feels too. It definitely seems like that, especially from the survey responses. And so, kudos to you guys too, because you have set us off on a good pathway, and it is for us, all of us, community, board, teachers, students, all of us, to rally behind this now.
Yeah, so I'm also kind of all or nothing at this point too, for a couple of different reasons. And absolutely understand and see your side of it from, you're talking a fairly significant increase from the option A to option C. But one of the things that kept coming up is fiscal responsibility, and with Dr. Bogan, now here and digging into the finances, already finding different opportunities for, if it's co-op for food, going out for new bids on fuel, all these different things that we're looking for, cost-cutting, cost-saving initiatives. We're working on that. We're looking into that. I think in this side of things, from a referendum standpoint, I think the implied cost savings is now we're going to replace the stuff with new things. And I think what comes outside of that from a facilities management standpoint is we have to come up with good PM procedures. What are our SOPs long term? How are we going to make sure that our boilers are constantly serviced, windows, rust, whatever the case may be. We can't just go, I think that's the other part too, right, and be committed to that. And that's the other thing. If we start with something new, we can commit to, all right, now we're going to start with these new PM programs. Here's our expected, useful life. This is when this needs to be changed out or serviced or whatever. So we have a better understanding of where our dollars are going. But with all of this new, it gives us a lot of breathing room in capital projects to be able to kind of get back to, square with where we're at while we're going through, it's always a good idea to go through all the accounts and see what do we got, what are we doing here, what can we cut, what can we consolidate, and that's exactly what we're doing. But this is going to put us way ahead of it. The other part of it too, from our ability to see, if the public can see where this money's being spent inside of the classrooms. And I'll be honest with you, I've been in and out of the high school a little bit over time. Now that it's basketball season, we practice at the high school twice a week. I've spent a lot more time in the high school as well as in the bathrooms of the high school, but just walking around in general, and it's so old, it's so decrepit. I love our high school, but it is. It's aged, and it's aged tough, right? It's been through the ringer over the years. So seeing the renewal, the revitalization, I think is going to not only improve morale from the teacher standpoint. We talked about all this. We went back and got surveys on this. How do we think this is going to help with the teachers? Are the teachers going to teach better? God bless you. How are the teachers going to teach better? Are the students going to be proud to be a knight in their school, in their high school, right? the middle schooler is going to come from a school like this and then be excited to go, to the high school because it's revamped, right? With new technologies and everything else like that. I think if we go out for this, it does more long-term for the district. I mean, yeah, okay, we get a field house. This is another nice draw. We get additional revenues from that. I think from being, athletics. I mean, we've all been to some of the other high schools. I mean, I went over to East Aurora. We played a football game over there. This new stadium and AstroTurf and nice little field house. It's like, I remember when I was a kid playing over at East Aurora, it was a little sketchy, right? But it's nice and new and inviting, and that's something I think our community deserve, our students deserve. And that's why I'm leaning towards this. Now, again, with debt restructuring, where I'm like everybody else in this room from Illinois, I never expect my taxes to go down no matter what. I don't expect them to spike insanely high either, but pretty much level set with a little incremental jump from here to here. So my expectation of taxes ever going down. So if we could do this and level set for the next whatever years, my tax bill's not going to change from this year to next year for the most part, unless the other implications of tax increases happen, which they will. That's a lot easier pill to swallow. So that's my 2 cents.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing no further discussion. As a matter of procedure, since we are presented with 3 options, we're going to vote on the initial option that was recommended by the district administration. If it fails, then, correct me if I'm wrong, but then we will vote on a different option, correct, until we get one that passes at that point?
For tonight.
For tonight?
Tonight's question, yes, if
Yeah.
the first one does not pass, there would be more conversation,
We would have to have
whether
further-
it's 1 or 2, yes.
Yeah, we'd have to have further discussion if this fails and figure out how to proceed.
Correct.
So,
Can I ask a question on procedure?
Yes, sir.
So, say you vote yes to option 1, and then you vote yes to option 2, or if option 1 passes, do we not take up 2 and 3?
Correct, exactly.
Okay, so you have to vote down the first 2.
If option 1 passes as a recommendation, then that passes.
Wipes out the other 2.
that seems the most
And
logical, too.
I just want to make sure that was the way it was.
Yes.
The one that we're recommended to vote on encompasses
Is-
the other 2
is the other
anyway. So if it doesn't pass, then yeah, we'll check down.
All right. Okay, last chance for further discussion. Going once, twice. Okay, at this time, I will entertain a motion that the Board of Education approves the resolution providing for and requiring the submission of the proposition of issuing not to exceed $140,274,000 school building bonds to the voters of the district at the consolidated election held on the first day of April 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cook?
Aye.
Mr. McCauley?
Aye.
Dr. Lawler?
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner?
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons?
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. The resolution providing for and requiring the submission of proposition of issuing not to exceed $140,274,000 school building bonds to the voters of the district at the consolidated election to be held on the 1st of April 2025 is approved.
It's a mouthful.
We changed a while back to where I confirm what we just voted on, so that's why that was so long. Okay, so it's been established. All right, the second item of new business is the technology and audit review. Dr. Bogan.
All right, thank you. This item is on the agenda tonight. This was requested by the board in an earlier board meeting, and so tonight I have Mr. Tim Wolf, our Director of Technology here, and he's gonna dive into what his department is doing, just in terms of reviewing and ongoing practices in the department.
All right. Hey, Brian, I wanted to just say one thing. My father-in-law was the first class to go through the high school, freshman through senior, so it is old. And I graduated 35 years ago, and I'm old, so it's really, really old. So anyway, technology department, I just want to say we handle a lot of stuff, all the way from cybersecurity, firewalls, fiber optics, Wi-Fi, door access, centralized printing, phone systems, network redundancy. We support over 400 different applications that we actually have DPA's data privacy agreements that our staff, we don't pay for all those, but we actually have to have privacy agreements so they don't abuse our students' data. We have to support all those. We support between 5,000 and 6,000 different devices on our network, and my department's not very big. And I'm not complaining, I love my job here. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for letting me speak with you on this. If you look at the memo in there, I think it's $400 and some thousand. Those are not just contracts, but those are also our yearly renewals. And I would say about 80% of my budget is set every year. We have to pay for Microsoft, we have to pay for Google, we have to pay for internet, we have to pay for Adobe. Those are just things we have to do to function. So the majority of my budget isn't really even negotiable, and a lot of that, the prices aren't negotiable. I can't negotiate with Microsoft and what they're going to charge us. I can't negotiate with Google. When we use Canvas, for our learning management system, a lot of those prices are set. So my budget, when I build my budget out for Dr. Bogan every year, re-emphasizing, like 80-some% of it's already set. I don't have a lot of leeway unless we're cutting programs. If we want to go to a different learning management system, which we discussed, we don't want to, but that would be an option. Cutting bus Wi-Fi or something. We'd have to cut something on a bigger scale to reduce my budget. I know I'm advocating for my department, but our department every year just grows and grows and grows. Whether I work with Mark all the time, our HVAC system's on the network, the electrical panels are on the network. It's just more and more, and we grow and grow, and my budget doesn't really grow. And again, not complaining, I'm just advocating for my department and technology. Along to help it, we'll get internet. Again, it would be any 40% off of any of our cybersecurity type security things. I don't give names of the products we're using, just to be confidential. If you ever want to know, feel free to talk to me about the different cybersecurity stuff we're using, but for security reasons. One thing that we did see that looks like that we could kind of cut back on is printing. We have, 35 or 34 Canon multifunction machines throughout the district, and those are about ½ cent a page to print. But along with that, we found we have over 100 different miscellaneous printers throughout the district, and those are 3 to 10 cents a page. We spend about $40,000 a year in toner on those. If we can get our staff to do more centralized printing and less of those individual printers, we could have some significant savings there. Also, along with that, we are replacing them as some of those break, so we spend a few $1,000s a year on that. So I would say about $43,000 outside the Canons. Some of those we cannot get rid of. They're in specialty areas, but I'm reviewing it with Dr. Bogan and Dr. Rowling, and we'll find some savings there. And we're going to come back, if you look at the end of the memo, and let you know what we can find there. I did a lot of talking real quick there. That's kind of just the overview of everything, and my department does a lot more. There's just so many little things. I listed them all out at one point, and there's just page after page after page of stuff we support. And I have a wonderful staff. They make me look good. Some of them are over there right now. Thanks for all your guys' help. So what questions do you have for me? I'd be happy to answer anything you have.
I do want to just point out too, Tim left this out, but he is planning an RFP in the spring for our cellular devices. And in the process of him doing that, he actually worked with our current carrier, which is Verizon, and they were able to offer us better pricing on our existing contract now. We're actually saving about $10 a month per device because of Mr. Wolf's work on that for the RFP.
And we're the first district in the state of Illinois to get that pricing. So.
Yeah.
And I know we're talking software, but
so a lot of the software comes under educational services. So there's some software in there, and that's usually when it's district purchased. But if it's like specific to K-5 or middle school or high school, that'll come out of educational services. So that would be a whole nother report if you wanted to see the
Yeah.
different
No,
applications we use.
No, I was just wanted to say thank you again for going out and finding us a bunch of hardware at a very
Oh, yeah, you're
reduced
welcome.
cost.
Yeah, my staff is super excited about that.
Yeah, so
it's
no.
like Christmas Day for them. If you want to stop down to my office, too, it's like just loaded with
We
equipment.
appreciate your working relationships with other districts and, coming out with that. I mean, that's huge cost savings for things that we need and that you can utilize. So that's, additionally, we really appreciate that hard work and effort.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Happy to do
And the
it.
fact that you keep looking for grants, this is not the first one, that you've done multiple other things, and you've definitely saved this, our
Yeah.
district a lot of money.
I've been in this community a long time, and I know how it works, and I
I'm
can
glad
do
you
what
got
I
a chance
can.
to come tonight, Mr. Wolf, because we don't always remember to thank you for all that stuff, right? Because you do so much, we kind of take it for granted now, and so I'm glad.
But
you're
that's
here
our
to say-
job, is we're behind the scenes, and if I don't get recognition, I know it's working.
But a lot of times it's a part of our agenda where it gets missed of like, hey, Mr. Wolf found this grant, or Mr. Wolf found this, and then stuff like that. And it's just, we say yes to it and we move on. So just also recognize for a moment, there's a lot of things you and your team are doing, yes.
Oh, well, you're welcome. I'm happy to do it. And one big thing that we've really been working on, and I talked to Dr. Layden and Dr. Rowling about this, it's the old saying, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So if I have 2 of something, something's going to go down and I'll have 1. And if I have 1, you'll have none. And that actually happened to us not too long ago with some phone. You saw some of the phone stuff go down. We're working on better redundancy on that. But all of our fiber optic connections to different buildings, we have redundancy. Work with Mr. Payton here on our data closets have generator backup. So if power goes out, we can run all the data and Wi-Fi and everything with no power.
So I believe some of why this came up is so we were talking about hardware or tools, technological tools that maybe other districts are using or that we might be specifically using or not using, that we want to understand, where are we at in comparison to some of the other surrounding districts as far as the technological tools that teachers are using within the classrooms, correct?
Yeah, we were talking about not only the software tools, the technology tools, but enhanced services as well. For example, I know Hinckley Big Rock provides wireless Wi-Fi for its students, wherever they are, which is a huge, well, and given how competitive the mobile, wireless is, and how service has, both the technology and the service has improved probably from the time we initiated, correct?
Yeah, definitely.
That we need to be cognizant of providing the best possible tools to our teachers and to our students. And as well as reviewing who has a district phone and the need for it as well, to rationalize that. I mean, it might be the deal comes that gets offered after the RFP. You might have more devices, and it may very well be needed. But in terms of both remote learning as well as providing the best possible tools for our students, and what I see from what's going on with districts, not only in this area but in other states, what some of the wireless carriers are offering at a lower cost. So that's going to be for the RFP. And
Yeah, we'll send one out for that, and also Dr. Bogan sent something out to all of our building administrators asking if any teachers or students needed access at home, and if they didn't have it, they were able to fill out a form, and we gave them wireless jetpacks to take home for access. So Dr. Bogan's on top of that.
So, quick question about just what is your process, Mr. Mankowski just mentioned, about how, that we're staying ahead of the technology. So do you meet with other schools, or
Yep.
is that?
So Thursday will be my once-a-month meeting with all the other directors in Kane County. And then we have an agenda of what's going on in our districts, technology-wise, what's coming forward. Also, many of you, or a few of you know, Nick Borg was out in Silicon Valley. He lives back in Sugar Grove. I'm actually meeting with him Wednesday night. I try and meet with him, if not once a month, every other month, and we just talk technology. He still has the pulse of Silicon Valley. It's a great asset for me in the district just to see what's going on out there. Actually, Thursday night, he's coming to talk at our AI meeting and how AI is evolving and what's coming out of Silicon Valley with it, and it's going to be exciting. I'm really interested to see what he has. So I do meet with my peers once a month, and then I do have that little pulse on Silicon Valley through Nick Borg, and I live and breathe technology. Every day during lunch, I don't take lunch, I just read technology stuff, so.
So from a procedure standpoint, Mr. Wolf, you're coming back and then you're going to report back on?
And what cost savings we can find.
Perfect.
Yes,
Okay.
yep. And right now, our key focus is going to be what we can reduce in printers. So to cycle back, I can't remember what year it was. It was probably, what, 14, 15 years ago, we went to the centralized printing with Canon. Before that, we had 425 individual printers throughout the district. We got rid of that, and we got down to, I want to say, like 40. We said we had to have these 40 standalone printers, if you will. Some in, not necessarily standalone, but they're in computer labs, some other important areas. Now we're back up to 110, and that crept back up. People, you know, advocated for their department, and whether it was PE or special ed and so on, and we let that go up, and now we need to reevaluate that and bring that back down. And I'm hoping that maybe we can cut that in half, and we'll see. When we invested in the Canon printers and found locations where we made sure that no teacher had to walk more than 60 seconds to a Canon printer, Canon copier. So, and the nice thing is it's secure centralized printing. They can just send it to a queue, and then they can walk up with their prox card to anyone in the district. So if you're at the high school and you want your printout here, you can just come down, scan your prox card, and get your printout down here. So, more questions? Yeah.
They'll beat me to it. Oh, go
All
ahead.
right. I was-
No, go ahead.
when you come back, will you also talk about the RFP and the phones, or? will that-
Yeah, I can tell
You
you
don't
the
have to.
findings on the RFP, yep.
Yep, okay.
And then also the printers, and then if anything else, we're gonna just discuss what other options we may have to reduce some costs. And then hopefully by then I'll know if we got into the cybersecurity grant.
Oh, that'd be great.
And right now, we are about, if we had 11 more free and reduced lunch people, we'd go from 40% on our grants to 50%. So if you know anybody out there that would be willing to fill out the forms, I don't know if it's the right platform to plug for that, but it would help my department, so I apologize if this was the wrong place for that. We're just right there to go from 40 to 50%.
Well, and I think too, if there's other technologies out there that you know about or that you see, you know, with your communication with other districts, within the classrooms or some different things that other teachers or classrooms are utilizing for teaching, you know, don't be afraid to share that with us too.
Okay.
Obviously, we are always looking to be fiscally responsible while balanced with being able to teach these kids with where we are today, technologically speaking. So if there's some other things that do come up that make sense for our district, from that standpoint too, please, you know, don't hesitate to share that.
Yeah,
as
thank
well.
you. You're a very approachable board. I've had boards before where people were a little nervous to talk to, but you guys are. You guys are good.
Nice.
Well done. Say it, Tim. No, I'm just kidding. Very good.
Okay, questions, comments? I just wanted, they already said it, everything I had to say, but I just want to thank you for all your hard work. As long as I've known you, which is a relatively short time, you've set the bar in terms of, you know,
Thank you.
being aggressive, going out there, finding grants, partnering with other districts, and I think we could all learn from you and the effort you put in, so. In
thank
my
you.
eyes, you're an all-star.
All right,
And
I
I can't say
appreciate
enough good
that.
things about you, so
All
thank you
right.
so much.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. There's no action necessary tonight for the technology and audit review. We'll move on to the third item of new business, which is the EC through 12 curriculum practices. Dr. Rowling.
Yeah, so this presentation is part of a request from the board previously during the year. This is the first of a handful of presentations. that our education services team is going to do. Tonight's going to be about curriculum practices and some general definition, understanding the process. We'll be coming back with some content area conversations throughout the spring. So I'll turn it over to the team.
Okay, good evening. As Dr. Rowland mentioned, this is first of many. So we are starting with the broad picture of curriculum practices, and then in future updates, we're going to get down into specific content areas. So what we're going to do this evening, we're going to give you the history and the framework of how we go about with our curriculum practices at Kaneland District 302, give you some key definitions so that we understand the language that we're using when we approach these things, and also to help in future presentation. We're going to go through the different components of curriculum practice. We are going to discuss the review process that we go through on an annual basis. We're going to include the key decision makers that are part of that review process. We're going to talk about current steps for improvements, as well as a vision and timeline for potential future improvement. And then we're going to wrap up with communication. Okay, so for the history.
Maybe.
Where's Mr. Wolf?
Yeah.
Take it with him.
You ran.
So one thing that Dr. Horn and I wanted to do was always come back with you. As they had said, we're going to come back multiple times and dive into each of the core content areas. But every time we wanted to come back, we wanted to have one kind of guiding image. And we wanted to explore each one of those, whether it's the broad overview today or the content areas, really through the how, the what, the who, and then the design. And so that we had consistency in the conversations every time that we came back. And so really to define each of those categories before we dive into them, really that what is talking about what those definitions are, whether they were definitions that we historically created from practices out of our department, out of strategic planning, out of leadership teams, but what are the words that we use that are specific to Kaneland in some ways, and then how did those words that are specific to Kaneland relate to the Illinois terms that are given to us. And that kind of defines the what of our curriculum process and structures. The how of it are really what tools do we have that support our teachers and students in the learning process. Once we have that written curriculum that outlines the practices, the objectives, what proficiency looks like, what are those tools that we started to talk about a little bit in the technology conversation, but also the textbooks, the things that we use to really make all of that written piece come alive. And then the decision-making process is kind of the who. Who helps to make those decisions, and how do we collaboratively work together throughout that process to make sure that all voices are heard from a variety of stakeholders. And again, as Dr. Horn said, kind of that leads us to our big curriculum design. And every time that we go through that kind of process in the content area, what are our next steps for continuously improving it and reflecting on mistakes that have been made, as well as improvements, and where we can enhance our next step process.
Speaking of
We're doing really good here.
All right, look at that. Okay, so let's start with some key definitions. So we start off with a standard, an Illinois Common Core state standard. So those are given to us at a national level or at a state level. They're usually very big, very broad. From that, we break it down into a reported standard. So the reported standard, that is something that is specific to Kaneland, and that is a learning outcome or a learning skill that we want a student to have. From that, we're able to develop how we progress students through. So if you're talking about a reading standard, what it looks like at 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, based on how we want it structured within Kaneland. If you're talking about higher levels, like so for math, for example, where it's not as grade dependent, it's more content dependent, algebra into geometry into algebra 2, pre-calculus stats, the standards that are reported are driving that, and that is taken directly from the state or national standard for Common Core. We break those down into units of learning. It's just a good old-fashioned unit. So it's a period of time that within a class you're going to be focused on whatever that reported standard happens to be. So if it's on factoring, then for a period of time, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is, the students are going to be working on that particular standard in a unit. Common assessment, that is a shared test, shared quiz, shared presentation, shared project that is common for everybody that is teaching that particular unit of study, so they can work together and collaborate on how the students are doing. And that does look different unit to unit. So at the middle school level, a common assessment around a standard with 7th grade ELA would be the same regardless on what 7th grade team you happen to be on. When you're talking about the French department, which is one teacher, and there's only one section of French 3, by definition, everything is common within there. So there is variations that you see within it, but that common assessment being developed to guide how the students are doing on whatever that reported standard happens to be. So the proficiency table, once you've identified what those standards are, once you've broken them down to unit of study, and once you've determined how you're going to measure it, that proficiency table is what's being used by teachers to guide what it means to actually attain that knowledge, to show that you're proficient on it, and how you can communicate that to the students so the students know what they need to do in order to demonstrate proficiency. If it's on an essay, that could be done, communicated through a rubric, could be through a score. It really just depends on what the subject happens to be. When we get into the curriculum tools, curriculum is a word that is used, thrown around pretty broadly, but we have a pretty specific definition on how we talk about it, at least in-house here at Kaneland. So when we refer to curriculum, we're talking about the content that the students are going to be learning. When we talk about tools, those are the ways that we're getting the information to the students. An example of that could be a textbook. A textbook could be a tool. Now, in this day and age, when I say textbook, a lot of us have images in mind of an actual book itself. No, those are stacks of paper. They look like the stacks of paper, sorry.
There's some of the covers, though.
There's some of the covers, I'm sure. Textbooks can also be published online, where it's the same thing, just provided in a different format. Tools can also be other online resources that we utilize to get the curriculum and deliver that to the students. Review cycle, that's what we do, as Dr. Mumm mentioned, to make sure that we're constantly looking for areas of improvement. Along the way, decisions are made, we test things, we review it, and we modify and make improvements, and it's a continuous process that we're doing. So the review cycles, it's teams of content experts, and it is a collaborative process. It's very important that you have content experts on it. If you're working with a math curriculum, you want to make sure you have math content experts at the various levels putting it on there. It's not just the Department of Educational Services. While we are part of the team, we're driving the agenda and a lot of the work. It's really the content experts that it's a conversation that we're having with those people in order to make sure we've identified areas for improvement within our curriculum. Piloting and vetting, that's once we've determined the various tools out there, get them in the hands of the content experts. They begin to work with it, begin to look at it, things they like, the things that they don't. We bring reps in to do presentations, make decisions on what it is that we're going to be bringing in. And by our policy, we bring anything that's going to be purchased to this board for approval, and then is on display for a period of month for anybody in the public to come in that wants to take a look at the tools that are being utilized to deliver the curriculum for our students.
Dr. Horn, can I interrupt for a second?
Absolutely.
Could you walk me through, and maybe this is a question for both of you, how, if there's dissenting opinion amongst the experts, how you come to a consensus on what the curriculum should be? So how do you walk through that process?
So I think we're going to dive pretty deep into that next process in the next two slides.
Okay.
And so that might help. But the decision-making process is going to be the next two slides.
Okay, so
that really dives into that deeper process and outlines a little bit deeper what Dr. Horn was talking about. And so that is because we do have that a lot on our curriculum review teams. We start with looking at anywhere from 11 different options down to 9, down to 4, and sometimes you get down to 2, and we get stuck at 2. And then what do we do to kind of overcome that? And we can talk about the different options that we've explored in the past and different ways to go past that. The decision-making process, like Dr. Horn said, is through that curriculum review cycle. This just, first slide gives you a little bit of an overview of what that curriculum review cycle is, and like he had said, it really starts about 18 months before the actual, it's an 18-month process. We start in the spring looking for voluntary KEA members to join, looking for those content experts. We do put out there, here are the K-5 curriculum topics, here are the 6-8, here are the 9-12. It doesn't mean that you only have to be a K-5 staff member to join that committee. Currently, we have a high school staff member on a K-5 math committee, and we may have an elementary that wants to sit in on the exploratory at the middle school. And so the staff has the ability to be on curriculum committees outside of their content area, and they may choose to do that for a variety of reasons. A, they may be a content expert because of a passion in the study of that content, that they're teaching at this level, but they have done research or passion in that content at a different level, or they may be exploring a different teaching path in the future, and they want to be part of that decision-making process. And so we ask in the spring of every year, would you like to be that content expert and part of that decision-making process? And you can have different levels of that process. You can come and be part of all of those committee meetings. You can be part of the committee meetings just by reading the notes and then be part of the piloting process. You can go and do the observation of lessons. You can go and we have collaborative meetings with other districts where we share our pilot stories with each other. This year, for instance, in the math review, we're going to Sycamore to watch them do some pilot lessons because they're piloting different math than we're piloting. And so they're going to come and watch some of our lessons. We're going to watch theirs. And then we have some Google Meets with Burlington as well. And we have staff that just want to observe the lessons and give feedback, but they're not on the full review cycle committee. They're just our feedback subgroup. So once you have established the staff that have an interest, we do start the process at the beginning of the school year. And we really meet a couple times at the beginning of the year to work on that written process, the written curriculum that Dr. Horn talked about. Historically in Kaneland, we started with curriculum maps, which started with the reported standard, followed by essential questions, followed by kind of lesson resources. And then with the adoption of Kaneland Connects, we shifted our focus to proficiency tables as that main written curriculum that the review committees focused on, because we wanted to further have a written tool that defined what proficiency looked like for clarity for teachers and students of how do we assess proficiency, and we need to have that written definition of what it looks like to be able to assess it. So the first part of that cycle is really to make sure that that written curriculum gets done before we start looking at those tools. Currently, best practice would say that you review and purchase around a 5 to 7 year process. We were averaging at about 11 to 13 years. We have backed that up and tightened that timeline to 9. That was based on some financial impacts as well as timing impacts over the course of our time within Kaneland. What we have been discussing is how can we actually review the written part of it every 3 to 5 years, but keep the purchasing at maybe 7 to 9 years to make it more efficient, that we're more timely looking at our written, but maybe not financially committing to the larger purchase as frequently as 3 to 5 years, but we want a more frequent review of the written.
Okay, I notice here, we're not set for a reading review for 4 years.
Mm-hmm. That's our current cycle. That one is the one that we want to revise.
Any chance this gets
Yep.
moved up? I mean,
Absolutely.
it's a critical need. I mean,
Yep.
I see the same data that you do. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's at best flatline in reading and no progress, and we're lagging behind neighboring districts. And it's because in those small parts, there's been nothing there. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Teachers are leaving because there's nothing. No support. We're having to go spend all sorts of money on teacher-paid teachers. I don't think we can, correct me if I'm wrong, I could be full of crap, but I don't think we can afford to wait 4 years for ELA. I'm sorry.
We are.
I just don't see it.
So we are, this year, we've actually seen incremental growth in reading over the last couple of years. But we,
By what measure?
by the IA. So we,
Not iReady?
In iReady.
well, we,
Well, yeah,
IAR is the one that.
right, is the one that, the
Right,
objective.
so we saw 8% growth this year. Now, that being said, we are, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but I'm in the process of getting some feedback from our elementary teachers through some meetings and through a survey. Once that survey closes in January, I'm going to share the data with the board and with our staff, and then we're going to use that to revamp not only this, but our curriculum development process.
I'm just
So,
saying, we can't wait.
I would
We can't
envision, I would envision based off some of that we will be revising this and identifying a different structure. So
we don't have.
I can't commit to what that
We
will
don't
look
have
like
it
right
now.
now. The survey is open till January 7th. I've had one meeting. I have 2 more this week. And so based on that, I'm asking, one of the questions is what materials do you need? Like, where do we have deficiencies? And so we'll be evaluating that in January. We'll be coming back to the board with revisions, not only with this cycle, but also the process itself. So, but we wanted to be sure to include the teacher voice in that because we want to hit the right mark. Right now we have a lot of teacher autonomy with little direction. We need to move more to the middle, but we want to do that in a way that hits where the teacher. We don't want to swing all the way the other way, right?
No, I'm not talking about micromanaging here.
Yeah.
I'm talking about providing resources into the hands of teachers, curriculum resources in the hands of teachers, so I don't have teachers complaining to me that they have to go to teacher pay teacher.
Right. So
That they don't have to go to these pay sites for the necessary resources, which should have been part of curriculum in the first place.
Right. So based off.
I'm not talking about micromanaging. I'm not, no.
Based off the data from the feedback from the teachers, we'll be revising this chart, the chart that you see in front of you.
So when you discuss the feedback from the teachers, because one of the themes I've seen when we're trying to involve everyone is voluntary, right? So that we use that term voluntary, meaning we ask you and stuff like that. By nature, I'm a shy guy, right? Or I'm busy doing this or that, and maybe I'm not going to step up and voluntarily go doing that. Are there any proactive measures that are being done to ensure that these teachers are being actively engaged and that we're hearing the voices? We in middle school, they were talking about being your own voice, and to some extent in a professional setting it can be tough because if you feel like you're going against what administration is saying, then you feel like there's potential retribution. So what are we doing proactively to involve all these teachers to make sure that they have a voice, or that they have the ability to have a voice beyond, hey guys, here's this meeting, come see us,
Go ahead.
Maybe
One of
that's,
the
yeah,
things
sorry.
that we do in the curriculum review cycle, whether it be for math or exploratories currently, in our September meeting, we have all of the folks that have signed up for it, and we sit down and say, but who are all of our stakeholders? And so yes, you're here as a volunteer to represent and help us make these decisions, but there are a lot of other voices out there. So who can you go back and represent? And so who can you contact after this meeting and say, here's what we discussed, here are some questions that our committee came up with. I'm going to go back, and I might be a 3rd grade teacher at McDowell, for instance, but I want to go back and represent 2nd and 3rd grade, or 3rd grade across some other schools, because they didn't have someone volunteer into that committee. Not that they have to go and survey every single peer out there, but we want to make sure that we get a variety of voices. And so we do have that conversation of, yes, we're the folks in the room right now because you have volunteered to come, but where can you as a representative go back and represent other voices? Because either they didn't want to take a sub day, or they didn't want to necessarily come to that meeting, or they wanted to maybe have a discussion with their peer, but they didn't want to do it in this type of setting or committee meeting. And so we do try to, and we always pose questions at the end of the review committee. Here are the questions that we're still wondering. These would be the perfect ones to go back and share with those that you're representing. And we also post them in our weekly blog, So if someone didn't go back to those that they're representing, you can read in the blog like, oh, I have an opinion on that. I might not be on the committee, but I can reach out to a representative or the Ed Service Department or my instructional coach, because they're always on it as well.
And I think based off the initial success of the survey that we sent out, so I sent the survey out midway through last week. As of this afternoon, we had 129 responses. For context, K-5 staff, I think we were around 170. So that response rate is unheard of, quite honestly. But I think based off the success of that, we're going to leverage those types of tools more to get the voice of people that may not feel comfortable coming to talk, right? So I think we're going to leverage those tools based off of the fact that people are responding.
So I know you're going to address it later, Mayor, the steps for future. So if you need to park this, park it. But I think there is a concern, right? This timetable maybe isn't as aggressive enough, and there's a long history for that, I'm sure. But I know that at the end it kind of just says we're going to look at these things. I think we would like to see, you know, how aggressive that's going to be. And so if I'm hearing this right, that's what the next presentation is going to show.
No, the next presentation will actually be on ELA.
Okay.
But we expect to come back to the board at the end of January or early February.
Okay, so
with adjusted timelines and essentially an 18-month plan.
Okay.
To make the changes that we're hearing from our staff. So we will be coming with a timeline. We'll be coming with here's what and here's when.
Okay.
The reality is you can't turn all this around tomorrow, right? We want to do it right. In fact, in my meeting with teachers, I explained that, and they said thank you for taking the time to do it right.
Sure.
So we'll be bringing that probably February, late January, early February to the board of, in addition to the ELA math and stuff that we're doing throughout the spring, bringing that as here's our adjusted timeline, here's how we expect to get to where we want to be, essentially by the time we open the doors in 2026. Based off teacher feedback, that's going to determine the priority of what we're getting done and when.
So with the urgency of reading, and since like, I know you're going to adjust the timeline and stuff like that, because that's not until 2029, and that obviously this curriculum review is a lot more than just, hey, making changes. But since whatever that timeline is, I'm not asking for that, but in between from now until whenever that is, there are changes that are going to be made,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's what you're saying. So you are addressing the reading concerns. You are working with the teachers, and so there will be changes made for 2020,
Right.
2025, 2026.
Just to be clear, like 2020, opening the doors in 2026, the goal is to have substantial change. There will be incremental things. You know, we're going to open the doors in 2025 with really what we hear from whatever the teachers come to us to say, here are the priorities. Here's what we need you to change as fast as possible. You know, you will see changes over time. So when we come back, that calendar will show what and when. It's not going to be like, here's a list of things that's going to be done for 2026. It's, here are things we're working on this spring. Here are things we're going to open the doors with in 2025. Here are the things we're going to be adjusting in the 25-26 school year. And then an adjusted plan that shows, you know, the curriculum cycle for the next, you know, however many years. Looking at, when are we looking at the curriculum and when are we looking at materials?
So obviously, the curricular review is buying new curriculum possibly, or whatever, you know, so it's
Well,
a bigger project versus what we're, like you're talking about now. There was some teachers' boards just saying, like you said, there's a lot of autonomy now, but maybe they need a little bit more. They need some of the tools like you were saying that, and so that's the stuff that's going to be addressed in this, I don't know,
Yeah.
call it mini review, and just say, hey, we have this, what do you need now to make it better, and so.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, one of the things, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of hijacking here, but trying to answer some questions is, you know, the current cycle, a lot of that is based off of purchasing of materials, which, as we know, finances in the district are challenging sometimes. What we want to do is, with more regularity, be looking at our curriculum documents to ensure that what's in our scope and sequence and what's in our, you know, proficiency tables and how we're connecting the curriculum to the materials, right, to the tools, is still accurate and working for the teachers. Then, if through that process, we say, you know what, this math is not working, then we may have to adjust. But we're not just going to wait until it comes up again to talk about it. We'll be talking about it with more regularity so that if we need to pivot, we can. But we can't be, like, quite honestly, we can't be in a position where we're looking to possibly purchase new materials for each subject every 3 to 5 years. We do not have those kinds of funds right now. But that doesn't mean we can't be doing our work that we can do. And then, like I said, if we decide this is just not working, then we need to pivot, then we will.
So is there an established process now, or will it be built later, the sense of like this curriculum review committee, are they just a one-time thing, like this whole 18 months, or like you said, throughout the 5 years, you do check in with them, you do progress reports or updates and stuff like that? What does that look like?
A typical curriculum review, like right now, we still meet with our word study committee that actually went through the adoption process 3 years ago. Because you go through the adoption process, do the written curriculum, and then, as Dr. Horn said, you kind of vet materials, and right now for exploratories and math, we're in the process of vetting materials and looking to see what types of things we want to pilot, explore other districts that are piloting, collaborate, get down to the point where we want to have a vendor showcase, and that's all within that first year. Hopefully getting to the point where you get to that one item that you want to purchase. If you end up with 2, to kind of go back to Dr. Lawler's question, if you have 2 that you want to pilot, we have come to the board and asked for an extension of a year, and to say we would like to pilot these 2 programs for a whole year, or a sub-pilot through the first semester of a year. So we do come back and do an extensive pilot if we really are torn between 2 things. And we will, in that proposal to the board, because there is an expense with an extended pilot, where typically mini pilots are free from the vendor, but an extended one does have a cost. And it's sometimes a cost then that is lost when you don't choose one. And so we vet that out as a possibility with the board for approval in spring. If we do get to the conclusion at the end of the first year where this is the tool that we want, their work isn't done, that committee stays together and we continue to develop professional development for the first year for sure, of how do you get to know your core materials, your new core materials. And so they plan the whole first year of professional development around those core tools and the written curriculum. And then in the second year, we do reconvene talking conversations with that committee of how is it going, what further PD is needed, anything we need to kind of put into a year 2 PD, and now let's talk about assessment. Because we can tweak the assessments as part of the initial writing year, but you really want to do a second tweak after you've taught the curriculum with the new materials for a year. And so then your second year as your committee are what types of tweaks do you want to do after you've taught the new materials with the new tools for a year. And then the third year is looking at the data from that 2 years of assessment and saying, what is the data telling us? Is there something else we need to do PD-wise, build capacity-wise? Are there some gaps in the tools that we chose that we need to fill somehow? And is that writing lessons, writing more curriculum, finding a supplemental tool? When we did adopt a writing series, in that third year we found that we needed to find a grammar kind of fill because the writing series didn't have as intensive grammar as we wanted. And so we found that professional book that kind of brought that extra structure into grammar as an example. And so really when you're part of that committee, your heavy work is year 1, but you will have reference conversations for about 2 to 3 years afterwards as kind of that implementation process continues. After kind of that third year, we're hoping that you get through the implementation dip and you're starting to see the acceleration of the learning process above and beyond where you initially were.
I think that's part of the struggle, probably for a lot of folks. The frustration is that it's such a slow process, right? You have to implement, review, adjust, re-implement, right? And so that's great if you're doing that iterations on piece of software or piece of manufacturing. When you're doing it on kids and you're doing it with my kid, I want you to do it much faster than that because I don't want my kid to lose steps in the process. So I think that also has to be a part of our curriculum plan. Is not just. And I understand the slow process. I mean, education, I get it. But what are we doing also to fill the stop gaps? Because we also have this goal of increasing our test scores and increasing our performance rates. Yep. So what are we gonna, what are the safety nets we're gonna have to build? And it's a lot to ask of our KEA staff, but I think we need those safety nets just because we're not seeing the performances we wanna see.
And one of the interesting things that we talk about in the review process, and this is the beauty of also having our MTSS staff as part of the process in the review cycle, is just that conversation. As the staff are getting to know those curriculum, either the new written proficiency tables, let's say, or the new curriculum tools, how can our MTSS staff support some of those student learning processes? Because by no means should student learning have to dip, because our capacity is learning a new tool.
Yeah.
And so we do talk about how can our MTSS processes and staff, through the co-teaching model, through professional development, through pull-out at times, assist our students in making sure that we're filling those gaps that may be unintentionally created by our staff learning a new tool. And so that has been the beauty of bringing in our MTSS staff into the curriculum review process. They previously weren't part of it, and they started to be part of it probably 4 years ago when we did do reading.
Are we intentionally bringing some of our reading people in to the math?
Yeah, we actually,
Intentionally?
yes.
Okay.
Looking at the
Are we bringing some
vocabulary
of the math-
process of it.
We're bringing some of the math people into the reading.
Yep.
Because it's not just some narrow column. It's, okay.
Well, I think the lateral concept that you guys mentioned, I think that's good, because to have the high school math teacher
Yes.
involved, they're the ones that have the expectation at that higher level.
Mhm.
And to see them, helping to develop at the lower level, it helps, bring it full circle to education. I'll tell you, from a parent's, if I take my board hat off and I put my parent hat on, it scares the heck out of me to hear my daughter, my son may have to go through a pilot program for a year while you guys are trying to figure out the curriculum. And to circle back to Dr. Lawler's comment, I think that's where a lot of parents
Mhm.
have angst, is that, we're like, hey, we got to figure this out. And this whole time, my daughter's got one shot at elementary school. She's got one shot at, 3rd grade, 4th grade. And so it kind of circles back to SBG and all these kids in high school that were, had to go through it. It's like, what do we do with these children who had to go through this while we were, quote unquote, figuring it out? So that's where a lot of my fear and angst comes in.
And one of the things I want to clarify on the pilot too is it typically is for a unit of study. And so for instance, for our current math pilot, we're piloting 4 different programs like Reveal Math, or Reveal or Revel, I'm not still sure on that one, Bridges into Math, and iReady. And we asked our staff, like, do you want to pilot, like one grade level is piloting it for fractions. They're going to continue to do like their typical learning for the year, but they're going to take 1 unit of study and try it so that we can get it in front of students, so that we're not taking their entire 3rd grade year as a pilot year for that exact reason. The only time that we do a larger scale pilot is when we come to the board and vet that option with you and say, we are torn between these 2 programs. We would like to do it for a full semester, because that is serious. You're taking a whole half year of a child's learning experience, and you're having more staff do that pilot. Our pilots, when we do a typical curriculum review cycle, are usually a unit of study, which tends to be maybe 4 to 6 weeks of learning. Still very crucial learning. You only get 1 chance at like 3rd grade fractions, but it's better than having like your 3rd grade year. It's a unit of learning, and then we can support that if that pilot wasn't as successful as we wanted it to be.
Well, the pilot is essentially test driving the materials, right? So all the materials that these 4 that we're bringing, these aren't 4 random selections. These are 4 that we've reached out to other districts that are using. These are viable curriculum packages. It's not like we're not just making stuff up, right? So these are all Dr. Mums, in the case of math, she's talked to other districts that have gone through adoptions recently. She's talked to districts that are using these 4 curriculums. So all of those things, we're not just putting them in front of something just like a wild hair idea. These are all viable curriculums. We're trying to pick the one that, or all viable materials packages. We're trying to pick the one that best aligns with our curriculum and best meets the needs of our teachers. So when we say pilot, it's not like, we're not like beta testing something. We're test driving all the different minivans to determine which minivan is the right one for us, if that makes sense. They're all safe minivans.
So I do believe we've gone through the decision-making, so just to kind of hit the next steps here. One thing that we are making sure that we have is our documents that we use internally for our communication of what it looks like, especially with new staff, that has been tightened up and has been put out in a way that it links tools to the curriculum outlines for our teachers so that they have access to it, so that the same teams are working, moving in the same direction. And then Dr. Rowling mentioned that the survey is open for EC5 and that scheduled meetings are going to be happening after the break with 612, with the idea of gathering that information plus the feedback of the board to come back to look for a tighter plan moving forward for August of 26. So we're hearing you, we get it, and we want to make sure that we are moving forward in the direction that the board wants the district to be heading.
Any steps in terms of making the curriculum available to parents?
Correct.
Who want to support?
Correct.
Or aid their students?
Yes. Yes.
To integrate them as part, you're doing that right now?
That is part of the plan. Yeah. So last year, what happened just at the high school level, we spent a significant amount of time taking the proficiency tables and putting it into what I'm going to call more user-friendly language, where you have clear unit of study with different key concepts broken down by department and then down by class. So having that available on the webpage for parents, and then if parents are requesting it, making sure that's available for them.
And in January, the guide that's on the last page of this goes live for elementary. It's the Parent's Guide to Curriculum, and it has a picture of every curriculum that we use, and then next to the picture will be the websites that the parents can access, either through the student's login or just a non-student login access that they can use to supplement the learning at home.
For supportive materials.
For supportive materials, yep. And we have already sent that out. I worked with 5 parents last week and this week to kind of pilot that guide with them and get some feedback from parents. I had almost every grade. I did not have a kindergarten parent give me the feedback quite yet, just to have the feedback prior to sending that out after the holidays. And so far the feedback has been positive. There's been 1 or 2 where you have to log in through the student's login to get to the Chromebook KAL, the login screen, to really get to the good resources. Otherwise, it's just the parent informational letter that's free without the login. And so we're trying to find other, probably better sites that we want to also add in. So that was good feedback from the parents.
And then we'll be reviewing in the spring with CAC, the parent resources, to see what additional pieces that they might need. So we try to use CAC as our sounding board. We'll be going through that in one of our spring meetings to say, what is this working for you? What would you like to see? Is this language that's accessible to you? Right? We speak education, but not everyone does.
Yeah.
So making sure that those things are accessible and meaningful to parents.
What kind of support systems are we thinking about for parents? So say I want to look through this curriculum, but I don't know how to teach. I haven't done algebra in many, many years, right? So how would I go through like looking at that curriculum and then being able to support my student, right? So what kind of supports are we offering? Or
That's a good
thinking
question.
about?
We have I know we are doing some virtual parent town halls, or we haven't found the right word for them yet, around IAR planning and how to support that learning process at home. We have one on February 13th and March 20th, but I'm wondering if that kind of same structure works around almost content support as well. I know we used to run Parent University here, and that was wildly successful the first 2 years when they were face-to-face, and then it kind of tapered off, unfortunately, of the face-to-face. And so I'm almost wondering if that kind of town hall virtual replaces that kind of Parent University, because that was our opportunity to really talk about what is the DEX platform and what can I get in the social science DEX platform that I could do with my child while I'm waiting for the basketball game to start or this to start. And so I would love to use those town halls, not only to talk about IAR, but to talk about the content supports at home as well.
And I think that's an excellent idea and a great point of looking at structures that we've had that we maybe have moved away from, to have that part of the long-range plan for how to improve. But to answer your question, kind of in the here and now, when you get to that higher level, you see that a lot at the high school, where I've never taken pre-calculus. How am I going to help? The best resource is always through the student's Canvas page and directly through the teacher in the here and now. That's not to let us off the hook collectively as a district and trying to be proactive in getting stuff out there. Absolutely, that is something we need to do. We've had some stuff we've done in the past that we can reinvent. We have some steps we're taking with IAR. We can easily dovetail a lot of it. But to answer your question, if somebody's asking you, I've got somebody in high school, they're struggling with fill in the blank class, the best resource is always the teacher's Canvas page, and then through contacting that teacher and working, channeling through the student. Because yes, parents, we want to equip parents with whatever information they can to meet the students where they are, but we also, the older the student becomes, the more the onus is on them. So that is part of that partnership and that balance that parents, schools, students all have to engage in through the developmental process of just going through high school.
That makes sense. I do think there's opportunity though for us to create these support systems.
100%.
And we have we're having, as a district, we're trying to involve community in a lot of different ways, and we can maybe build on that goodwill that we're building up, through referendums and through other things. Maybe we can also, integrate from a different angle. So,
and there's a lot of data out there that can drive this. We can see where our students are struggling. I mean, I threw out the pre-calculus. It's probably not a fair response. A lot of students are so driven and already lined up for college anyway. It might be in some of our lower level classes where we know, because of growing up and developmental things like that students are struggling.
Sure.
So focusing our resources, because you can't do everything, you'll drive yourself crazy. But if we know that transitioning into high school, that students are going to struggle with English 9, with algebra, with some of those key classes that historically over time, becoming better informed on how not just help our students, but also to help equip our parents to help their kids at home.
Agreed.
Okay.
So thank you for taking the time to speak tonight.
Oh, we also had the communications. I'll let you guys read that on your own.
We covered it.
Okay, any further questions, comments? We're good? All right. There's no action necessary tonight for the EC through 12 curriculum practices. It is now time for the board/superintendent report. Dr. Layden.
Yes, the first thing I have CAC, as Dr. Rolwing mentioned, CAC. Thursday night we do have CAC scheduled, and it'll be a special invitation of CAC, FPC, and FAC. Because of some of lower attendance of FPC and FAC, we're going to bring those all together. And the agenda primarily on Thursday night is to talk through safety and security. We always give families a safety and security update, and then also, based on the board's action tonight of scope 1 of the plan, we'll also have a referendum update to our families and provide another tour. Last time we had a CAC, we got into so much dialogue, we never had time for the tour. So we need to make sure we start with the tour, and that way everybody that is at the meeting can see the full tour and be able to ask security-related questions as we go on the tour as well. Great. And that was all I had for updates as we head into break. Sarah, are you mentioning break? Okay, finals, and then can you mention Friday, last day of school, January 6th? Or I'll just mention it.
I got it.
Oh, you got that? Okay, sorry.
Don't steal.
I know, I was just trying to, gotta control everything, my last time. I can't let it go. I can't let it go.
Yeah. Doctor, is that it for you?
That's
Dr.
it. I think that is it.
Thank you. Dr. Rowling.
Well, as Dr. Layden set me up, winter break does start at the end of the day on Friday. The students will be off until they return on January 6th. We hope everyone has a good break, recharges a little bit, and comes back ready for an exciting spring of learning. I want to celebrate the Madrigal Choir. I had the opportunity to attend the dinner on Friday where I was forced to sing, so I will be filing a hazing complaint against that. And it's embarrassing when you forget the words of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer halfway through. So, yeah, it's good times. Also, just to wrap it up, I do want to I know we already addressed this, but I want to personally thank Dr. Layden for helping with the transition. He's been an amazing partner in that. He has done everything he can to help us move forward in the right direction and set myself and the rest of the team up for success. So it's a testament to who he is as a person and how much he cares about Kaneland. So I want to personally thank him for everything he's done to set us up.
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Bogan.
Nothing this
No.
evening.
All right, Ms. Slattery, you're up.
Good evening. Girls and boys varsity basketball both beat Sycamore last week. The boys played on Wednesday, walking away with a score of 65-46. They also beat Rochelle that Friday with a score of 62-36, ending their week with a record of 7-1 and 3-0 in conference. The girls walked away with a score against Sycamore of 55-49. That was a very good game. And they also played Winnebago on Saturday and won 55-34, ending their week with a current record of 6-3 and 1-1 in conference. Girls bowling played at the Ray Maxwell Invite at Streamwood Lanes. Senior Emma Pernice placed first overall, with senior Presley Sutherland also placing third. Overall, the team placed fifth against 30 or so schools. Kaneland's baseball program has started their winter conditioning season. They've held 2 Saturday workouts so far and will continue to work hard throughout their winter break and rest of the winter season until their official season that begins in the spring. Finals are about to begin at the high school, and students are currently experiencing probably more stress than they've experienced in a while. As a senior myself, who hasn't necessarily taken a final in quite a while or almost ever, I'm currently one of those students, but finals week is also the end of the first semester, which is quite daunting for some. For others, they're ready for winter break and ready for change in their classes, whereas for others, such as myself, I'm realizing that this is my last first semester of high school, something that sprung up on me extremely quickly. This final week of first semester will bring lots of different emotions for lots of different people, teachers and students alike. So making sure we're all supporting everyone and being empathetic to the stress and anticipation is extremely important to me and to many others. So thank you, and that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, topics for future agendas. Once, twice? Alrighty. That's a special time in the evening where we move on to the second round of public comments, and we have one person signed up, so I will call Mrs. Albano.
Sheila Albano from Elburn, and I was scrolling through my calendar just shortly ago, trying to find the dates, but somewhere in the fall of 21 is the first time somebody came to me with some disgruntlement about what was going on with discussions about referendum and facilities and different things like that, and followed by the spring of 22 when I first stood up from the board and said, I don't know how you can have facilities plan without cross-country course, because you've just filled it up with cement. Roll forward to today, and the process from what we started with to what you have all done is 2 worlds apart. And I know it's going to be difficult. We may not pass the referendum, but I do think that your choice was the right one. Largely because at some point or another, you're right, you have to fix what's broken. If you don't have the money to fix it, you're never going to maintain it because you didn't fix it in the first place. And if we can do half of what our new track looks like inside of that building, everyone is just going to be amazed. And I think that we can do that. It's just going to take all of us working together, which is what you guys have been working very hard at doing now for multiple months. So, that being said, let us know when you need that go committee, because I know it's sooner or later, sooner probably, you're gonna be out of it and we have to do the work. So, and I have no idea how that starts, so I'm volunteering. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Sheila.
you for your comments. Okay. Well, there's no closed session scheduled for tonight's meeting. After the vote to adjourn, the recording of tonight's meeting is concluded. At this time, it is now 7:46 PM, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?